Okay, welcome to another live stream. So what I've been doing is I have been adjusting the towns, villages, hamlets and farms to make sure that all of the fortifications will have the where are we? Sorry. Yeah, making sure that they've all got the 1 foot sections of wall. Now I want to make it so that whenever you look at one of these fortifications that you can always see the 10 foot, the 1 foot sections of wall. If I make any differentiation between them, if I have some wall sections that do and some wall sections that don't, then it's going to indicate that there's nothing special about them. The other thing I'm going to do is remove the numbers from them. The numbers, really, they're not, well, it might be that as I populate these places, I assign a number to them at that point. There's a lot of places that have the numbers and some don't. The fortifications, when I did these, I made it so that the fortifications have numbers, which is great and all. Making it so that towers and things like this, so it may be that I need to renumber them. Mainly, there's been a lot of, during peacetime and everything like this, and because of the underpopulation of these places, the locals have spread out and they've taken over fortifications for their own places to live and things like this. So anyway, we've just cleared out a lot of the numbers there. Now I've got another map off to the side, which is going to make it so I can just copy and paste to a certain extent. So for example, this one here, 35. Now I've just copied and pasted over the top of it a wooden building. So some of these buildings, when they've rebuilt, they've rebuilt in wood and not in stone. So I'm just going to be inserting those into the equation. So some of these, in some of them you can sort of notice markets and things like this. So what I've got here is effectively places where traders can set up their traders can set up, and artisans can build things. There was somebody talking about not letting alchemists run their operations from within a town, just in case their experiments went wrong, which is quite a reasonable concern. Now look, I'm just going to point out that on the layout that I created before, when I first created this, I created it so that it was in line, as in this corner here was in line with here, but what's happening is you can't walk around it. So I'm just going to move it. So that's 17. That's 20. And then we'll go down 20. We'll go down 10. Okay, and we'll paste it there. So, I mean, it's not perfect. It basically just means that now I've got space to walk around. It's not a big deal, but It's just little things that bug me that I don't want to. If I can fix it, I can just fix it very quickly and move on to the next one. So the purpose of what I'm doing is, as I said, I want to make it so there's no differentiation between the appearance of buildings and each individual stone. So I think I've mentioned it previously in one of the other live streams that I want to make it so that people can hide things in plain sight. The objective is not just concealing something for the sake of concealing it, but in order to make it so that people can keep all their precious. If they want to, they can give their precious to the priests of trade for and pay a fee. But for those who don't want to pay a fee to the priests of trade, they should be allowed to keep their loot in play in a place like this. So for example, in this particular 10 foot by 10 foot, inside this, we can certainly look at, I can try, this is the home of blah. So it could be as simple as that. Could be that I create a new note. So house of blah. And so by doing that, by putting it in a note, when it comes to the appearance of the map as a printout in character or whatever, it's not possible to see that. So when you print it, it won't come up with the actual comment. The comment, you have to actually go into Excel to see it. So in terms of concealment of information and such, I think I spoke previously about the notes in Excel, and what I've got is I found that depending on the size of the note, so normally when you create a note, it may be that the size of the box is like this. Now what you can do is you can create the note and then you can put a couple of hard returns in there, and you can go secrets of the house, for example, and then when you look at when you just basically highlight and go into and it pops up with the comment, you can't see that special information. The only way to see it is to go in there and edit the note, and then you can see the secrets are down the bottom. So any one of these cells in Microsoft Excel enables you to do that. So it's quite powerful. It's just another enhancement. The main thing is that if I want to breathe life into the people who live in Valeni, then I need to make it so they've got a home and they can customize these homes. And the same thing goes with people who, like, say for example, adventurers who settle in these areas, they'll be able to do the same thing. So it's not a small thing. It's it has. If I don't put this functionality in, then it won't be available. Part of the thing about going live with the campaign is that I need to make it so that I finish this off before we go live, because effectively each of the provinces is going to have very similar. It's going to have very similar layout. So all the structures are going to be the same fortification style. As I said about copying and pasting values only, is that when you copy and paste values only, you effectively, it will result in the hit points for for walls and things like this. So each of these sections, it will no longer be a calculation that has a random number. The random number will be generated, and so once it's done, it's done. So, you know, when people want to settle in a building, they might get a woodworker to come along, if it's a wooden building, come along and assess the structure and determine whether or not they need to do some improvements and repairs. And so it might be that they decide that they don't want to, they're not willing to put up with having a house that only has walls that have 10 hit points, for example. They might decide that no, they're going to do some improvements, and they're going to make it so that it's a bit more structurally sound, and it's got a little bit more protection for them. It could be that if it's a stone building, they might decide that if they've managed to pick up at some point somehow, they've picked up some elemental stone, that stone that has an elemental bound within, it may be that they can have that stonework added to their structure. So, and if it happens to be that they've put a lethal trap or two, then that's not my problem. People need to be aware that the gloves are off. If somebody is going to be storing their personal possessions in their home, and somebody tries to break in and take their stuff, then the consequences may be fatal. And I'm not overly concerned about whether somebody wants to complain about that or not. If they've chosen to take that risk, then that's on them. So the mechanic for doing that kind of break and entry, really, I think that's going to require people to make contact with a game provider licensee, who is going to then need to consult with what's on the map. So they're going to have to reference, say for example, some adventurers decide that they're going to try and break into this house here, and so it may be that there's nobody on guard duty. They basically use some sort of flotation thing to basically get into the moat. They might create, like maybe put a temporary stall or something like that to conceal, and they start breaking in through the rear of it. If they want to do that kind of thing, then they need to find someone who's willing to put together a live game to suit that. I'm not really fond of the idea of doing it as a tabletop roleplay. The whole purpose of, yes, I've invested this time and energy in creating all this content, but it's really for record keeping. It's not as a standalone roleplay. I really don't want to take away from the live event. I want people to go to live events face to face, in character, in costume, you know, that's what I want this to be. But I'm still going to put in place all the back end that, you know, will basically hopefully, you know, make this into a true game world, a three-dimensional world that I mean, look, there's corners that I could cut. There's all sorts of yeah, there's all sorts of corners I could cut to just, you know, put it out there, put out, you know, an LRP game, you know. But I'm not wanting to do that. I'm not wanting to do that without, you know, giving it my all and really creating the best fantasy world I can. You know, I also, you know, one of the things I was considering was to start writing again. You know, I've written quite a bit of 180,000 words I've written. So if I can write 180,000 words, then I can certainly do the same thing. And that was a science fiction that I created, my own universe. It wasn't fan fiction or anything. It was, there's anything wrong with fan fiction, but the main thing is that I wanted to create my own world with my own characters that were mine. I think that it's it's exciting to, you know, create your own content. Yeah, exciting to create your own content, and if you can, you know, the main thing is to try. You know, I'm not going to have any pretensions that it's awesome, it's fantastic, it's wonderful. You know, I really don't know. Yes, I've read a lot of science fiction myself, and I think it's good. It's, you know, I'm proud of it. But whether or not it's something that could be published or not, I didn't do it for those purposes. So I'm quite content to, you know, leave it on the shelf. It's something that you know, it served a purpose when I wrote it. I wasn't very happy when I was writing it, and it helped me a lot. So you know, it was quite therapeutic. So I'm not. I feel no, you know, urge to publish it. But anyway, as for Rousted, exactly the same thing. That you know, I mean, the thing is that it won't be, you know, it'll be disassociated from from the last work that I did. It won't be. I won't be writing it as a therapeutic tool. I'll be doing it for my own sense of completion, of like telling the stories of these adventurers. You know, I've also made it so that anybody can do that. There's no reason why anyone who wants to take a swing at creative writing, they could feasibly. Look, there's another thing as well, just quickly. I mean, I've got these gardens in the back area behind the buildings, but I haven't got a second doorway, and I've found that, you know, I've really been doing this, you know, single door option thing, I'm not going to spend heaps of time tailoring it. Look, the main thing is that just as a starting position, I want to make so that each of these places, the people who want to live in them, as in whether they're players or whether they're non-player characters, I really want to make so that they can have a home. So yes, I'm putting this effort in. Not sure whether or not it will pay off, whether or not it'll be necessary. It's background. It's the way that I feel about characterizations and trying to create characters, make them real, is that they must have. You must treat them as though you were them. You really have to put yourself into the role, and so part of that is it's almost like I want to make it so that it's almost like the character is demanding respect. The character is demanding to be treated like an individual. They're calling. They don't exist, but you treat them like they do exist, and then you think, what do they want? And to me, what they want is they want to be treated with respect. They want to be treated as if they were real. And with some of the novels that I've read, yes, it's just fiction and it's not real, but to me, some of these books that I've read, the characters exist in your own mind, and you can become emotionally attached to them, and they're as real as you make them. So I don't know where the story's going to go. The story could go anywhere, really. I'm setting it up so I'm going to have at least 20 years of content. So, all the things that I'm just doing the work. I'm doing the work now, and for 20 years, I may be able to run content in this world, a world that I've created. So that's my objective. So yeah, every single thing that I create, I'm also quite. I think about when I first started doing this, and the amount of work that I've done since I started, the number of things that I've learnt how to do. I'm pretty amazed at how resilient I am to mistakes and to temporary setbacks, things like that. Because I make heaps of mistakes. One of the things about doing these live streams is I really am surprised by how willing I am to expose myself to making mistakes in a live stream environment. So it's okay for me to make mistakes. Anyway, I mean, I think I think that looks a whole lot better than it did before. Now, there's little things that I'd like to do, but I can't do. I mean, I could. At the moment, you can see this large garden area, and you can see it. These lines. The line is indicating a wall, but it's it's like a curtain. It's not, it's just not very robust and things like this. So, I could muck around with that. Um, I could muck around with that and make them. It's a bit extreme to. I've already gone to the extreme of making every single pixel. Oh, sorry, every single square in Excel 1 foot sections of wall. So for me to go and make 6 inches of wall or 3 inches of wall, that's just. I mean, the thing is that with farms and hamlets, for example, they're not that huge, in terms of size of the building, and it is entirely possible for me to do that. I could just change the scale. I could change the scale so that, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I could make it so that every square in Excel is 3. I'm calling it inches, and I'm not going metric on it. It's just one of those things. It's just tell me like if anyone can think of a fantasy genre, novel, whatever, that is using metric. I know it's a very silly, in my opinion, it's a very silly measuring method of measuring. It's metric is so much better in my opinion, but when it comes to fantasy genre, I don't know of any fantasy genre that is using metric. So that's my justification for using metric. After using Imperial when it comes to. Alright, so that's that one. So as that's the end of Village 2. Excuse me. So Village 2 done, and I'm going to open up Village 1. So it may take a little bit of time for the other one to close down and the other one to open up. So again, zooming in. So we've got the same deal as we had previously. So I'm just going to copy and paste. Here we go. The range you're pasting contains formulas that can't be pasted into this instance of Excel. However, the formulas will be pasted as values. Will result in formulas blah blah blah. Now, I don't quite know what I've done, and I remember that I tried to do some research into it and try to work out what I've done wrong, and I just couldn't find. I mean, I could have continued to search, but I didn't succeed. So what that means is when I've pasted from, just I don't know if it's just Village 1 or whatever, but the thing is when I've pasted from, what was it? Pasting from Village 4 into Village 1, is causing this failure. So no, I don't know why, but it's doing it. And I'm not going to spend the time right now trying to work it out. I'm just going to get on with doing the thing. So create a note, and then what I'm doing is I'm just basically copying the note from the previous one, and I'm also copying the calculation. So yes, it's a little bit of redoing of things, but I am pretty quick about these things now. You know, I've worked my way around Excel, testing out all sorts of weird ways of using Excel for quite a while. So yeah, I'm really happy with I'm happy with the time I've spent on Excel. I could have, you know, look, I mean, I used to hate it. I used to hate Excel, but I have started to enjoy it. I don't really want to say that because while I'm still working with it, it is a pain in the neck. And there are plenty of mistakes that I make with it. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, so I'm just going to go through again, and I'm going to create the internals of the town with the 1 foot sections. So again, explaining a bit more, like explaining about that. So zooming in, you can see the individual cells, and each one of these cells is indicating a 1 foot by 1 foot section of wall. So yes, 1 foot thick walls is pretty thick, and the only justification I'm going to offer for that is that when this crazy competitive thing was going on with the imperial architects coming to the region, invited to the region, but they came to the region and created all these. Well, they designed them, and then the locals. Sorry, they designed them, and then the story is that the story is that the locals wanted to have some fortifications, so they decided to, because their families were from all over the place and all different imperial areas, for example, that the locals in Valeni had family connections with these places. So it ended up being that the different rival families or whatever inside Valeni, when they sent out the request for assistance from the imperial architects, that the imperial architects came and they basically did some designs and all those things, but then the locals were, yeah, we'll get around to it one day. They weren't giving the imperial architects much in the way of faith that the locals would actually get around to it, and the fact that the imperial architects were being sent there as what started off as being just a silly conflict. Competition between the emperors. It just blew out of proportion to the point where, yes, they sent the imperial architect rather than just an architect. Then, when the imperial architects were finding that the locals were like a little bit blasé about the entire thing, and reported that back to the emperor, maybe the emperor was like, well, I'm going to get the high priests involved. So each court would have its own high priest, and then would have said to the high priest, make it happen. And so the high priests became a bit competitive amongst themselves as well, and so ended up being that Valeni was host to a bunch of high priests who were flexing their muscles in terms of design and building, to the point where each of these fortifications throughout the land was built with a bit of overkill. They did such a good job that these buildings are now well and truly secure. Well, they were right up until the War of the Gods, in which case there was a lot of devastation and death toll. And so the locals just they rebuilt as well as they could, but yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm creating the rebuilt version. Yeah, the rebuilt version of these towns, hamlets, farms, and villages. So they're not necessarily the way that they were when they were first built, but they're good enough, and they've lasted for 1,000 years. And if people want to go out there into the boonies and find the undead infested ones and take the undead presence and defeat that, and then try to rebuild them, there's going to have to be the ruined version of it. So I need to build it before I can destroy it, and that's pretty much the same process that I've had to use with lots of things. The idea of it is easier for me to build it and destroy it than to building a ruin. Building a ruin, for example, it's a lot easier to start with something that's not in ruined state. Anyway, just moving on. We're getting there. So time-wise, I really am running out of time. I suppose it's like any anytime you set yourself a deadline or whatever. But I think that it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. You've got to have a little bit of faith in that. I know how well. I kind of know how quickly I can process things and don't need as much sleep, which is good. Alright, 27, 28, 29, 30. 27, 28, 27, 28, 29, 30. So, where was I? Oh yeah, those pesky deadlines. So I'm pretty sure that I'll be fine. Pretty sure I'll be fine. 19, 20, 21, 22. 19. 20. 21. 22. And as I said previously, I'm only have to do this once. So yeah, any modifications after this, now that's the thing, it's like I just now found that over here we've got 19, 20, 21. So, and yeah, so I think the numbering is all over the shop. So really, I think it's just a silly thing to, I might have to just go back and, still got plenty of time. I can go through and put in different numbers and things. I mean, the other thing is 1, 2, 3, for example. I can't go to, well, yeah, no, I can't go there. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can do 1, 2, 3. Yep. So look, the thing is that the font size in that cell, you know, all sorts of little pains in the ass that I've found I've had to face. That once you paste something, like the formatting and stuff like that, it sort of sticks. And then if you want to try and change it, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. Right, where are we? Now, as for the stairwells, I'm not sure if anyone's noticing. I do have different styles of stair. I've got the staircasing in different corners and all those sort of things. But it does end up being a pain in the neck when you... I mean, for me right now, I'm rushing through it. I'm trying to get this done. Just get it done. And I'm not doing it perfectly. I'm cutting some corners. Now, as for me going back through and redoing stuff, yeah, it's not going to happen. This is like the last opportunity that I've got to to really make these changes, because in a perfect world this is going to go live, and then what happens if I do some modifications to the layout of these places, and then along comes somebody else who would like their place to have the same level of detail. I mean, I could still do it, but I'd have to basically beg. So please do it yourself. I don't want to do it. Because yeah, as much as I like what I've managed to squeeze out of Microsoft Excel, it's not something that I really want to be doing over and over and over again. I've done it enough times. I don't need to do it anymore. So yeah, once this is done, it's done, and it won't need to be done a second time. All the fortifications that I'm creating, I've already created 4 separate imperial styles. So there are no other imperial styles just hanging around out there. Of course, the other empires have their own styles, but if somebody wants to build something from scratch, start from scratch and build, like say for example, someone wants to create a character from a different part in the world, place in the world, and they create a mash culture for that other place in the world. I think it's fair and reasonable for them to be entitled to create the fortification style. Yes, I've got the 4, but there's still plenty of room for people to create something unique. So that's that there. Now I'm just going to go over here and finish this off. So I'm making it so the wooden houses don't have basements. No, that's a bit unfair. Well, don't really care. And then the thing is that it's just a rebuild. It's like, it's not a I'm not saying that people of Valeni are lazy, but why would they? So that's why they've kind of used a lot of the materials, a lot of building materials from the ruins. So the way that I'm looking at it is that the undead infested towns, villages, hamlets and farms, they are damaged and they haven't been rebuilt. And I'm going to make it so that the same level of damage occurred to these towns and villages, hamlets and farms, the ones that are still populated, that they suffered the same amount of damage. But 1,000 years is a long time, and the locals did do a repair job. But the layouts, look, I've made them quite spacious, for them to each have their own little garden area. And I know that's not unheard of. And look, they don't all have gardens, but I'm trying to make it so that there are lots of garden areas. And so when they were designed, It might not have been as pretty as, well, the rebuild isn't not necessarily as pretty as what it was when they were first built, and then after the War of the Gods. After the War of the Gods, their repair job involved salvaging stone from the ruined buildings and Frankensteining, and then rebuilding with that stone rather than going and harvesting stone elsewhere. So anyway, so that's the village one. So that's that. Then so I'll close village 1 and jump into Hamlet. Well, I'll jump into Hamlet 4. So that's Hamlet 4. Okay, Hamlet 4. And as you can see, Hamlet 4 is already done. So it looks like I am complete. So I must have at some point done the farms and the hamlets, but I mean, look, it did take a long time. What I just did with the towns and then the villages. So I can understand why I might have moved on to a different project or a different aspect of the game and the game world that need to be created. And as you can see, when I zoom in on this one, I have put backdoors to them. Now, I'm not sure if you can pick that up on the screen, but I've also noticed that when I try to look at the comment, it's flat. So edit note, you can see the comment now, but when I go to another one, it's flat. Now, where's that one that I just modified? There we go, that one. So I could feasibly grab that and then paste, and now the entire run. But I'm not going through at this point in the game. I'm not going through and modifying every single one of these. Suffice to say, each one's got a note. Every single one of them, it's got a note. Little things that I have done, which is basically put an overall comment in the building for some reason. It's pretty obvious that it's a 10 by. There we go. So this is showing just an old comment that I put in when I first built it, indicating that it is a 10 by 10 by 20. So it's 2 stories tall, and it's got a basement. But as I said, I'm not going to go through and change all the notes. I'm not sure at what point they all squashed, but not really a problem. What else is there? Just as an overview thing. So just going down into the sub basement, and then going into the second sub basement. What I've got is the vault in the sub level 2 corner. So to get into the vault, you've got to go through. It's kind of like completely independent. So yeah, I mean, really, I need to make it so that at least there's a stairwell in 37, and access to 37 I mean, really, this room here needs to be its own independent room, and then effectively to get into the vault layer, I then need to make it so that there's a door here, for example, so that you effectively would have to go from the Great Hall down the stairs into Sub 1. Then from Sub 1 you'd have to go through a doorway on Subway. A doorway on Sub 1 in order to get to a stairwell that takes you down to the vault. I mean, alternatively, I just make it so you got to go through the crypt to get to the vault. Now that would be that would be interesting. Anyway, we can worry about that later. Oh, excuse me. So the reason that I've just put all this effort in, as I said, is purely to give the people of Valeni a home. And so when I'm assigning them to a location, for example, I'll go back into, just for the end of this live stream, I'm just going to go back into Farm 1. So Farm 1, and then, as I've mentioned previously in a previous live stream, the intention is that the board game card will be like this. So this will be the board game card, and then every time this group of adventurers are activated in the board game, they will be activated, and then when they go back to Merkavik, I will assign them with an update 1, which will basically provide things like their allegiance, their primary motivator in life, and their home. So it'll be where they live on this map. So that will be in the home section here of update 1. Then I'm going to have effectively going to have their wealth, how much they have earned, things like this. So that will be in update 1. Then if they get hired again, whoever's hiring them will know this information about them. They go back home. I then assign them update 2 at the end of their second tour, and really a tour is like a month long. So at the end of their second tour, it'll come back with, there'll be more information revealed. In this case, it'll be their family origin, and then also their second skill. So you might sort of see that, for example, an apprentice animal handler called Wild Goose happens to be an artisan with a two-hander. So the objective is to basically have, yes, they've got their primary skill that they're known for, and then they've got their backstory, their history, the other skills that they've got, things like that. So just little things like that need to be talked about, that will come up progressively as the campaign goes along. We go from update 2 to update 3, etc., etc. And each of these characters who lives in the area, there'll also be notes. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see down the bottom here. I've called it party notes. And so the adventuring party at the end of each session, it may be that I put in brief notes of what happened. So that's at 8 points. So an 8 point in terms of the font size. It's not possible for me to it doesn't tell me how many characters, I don't think. No, it doesn't tell me how many characters. Yeah, sometimes I'm pretty sure there was a way to find out how many characters, but let's just keep doing it. Oops, sorry. Alright, so that's, well, yeah, as you can see, it's already off the screen. It's already off the screen. And it may be that instead of like the notes that go in here, that I could simply create a new note like such, and then I could copy and then edit note and paste into the note. The only problem is that I want these cards to be printed out so that, you know, for example, if there's a live event and this group of adventurers, if there's someone who wants to play the role of Indigo Boar, if someone wants to play it as a NPC role, or if someone wants to turn it into a player character role, that their character sheet will be in the same format as every other character. So there won't be any differentiation between a player character sheet and a non-playing character sheet. So yeah, so having a note that is only visible in Excel, look, it's handy, and there's no reason why. I mean, really, I'll just go over here, for example, and I'm going to just quickly copy that, paste that, cancel that, check this, make sure that it's not. Now, where's that? It's the same. It's the right one. Okay. All right. So we'll just copy that. All right. Done. Okay. So Renegade Party Update 6. So I want to update 6, and then I want to go in here, and I want to clear. Yeah, look, I'll do it all. So I'm going to clear it all. So I can just muck around and then create this massive party notes section. So I could do that without too much trouble. So again, it would basically have Renegade Party number, and so this could be in the deck of cards. So when people are looking at their character sheet, additional party notes could be compiled. So the individual notes here could be summed up in one big party note, just like that. And so each of the groups of adventurers that live in a place will have this line of additional information. So in terms of storing it, I'll be putting the people who live in the towns, villages, hamlets, farms in them. So yeah, I mean, having like one big master list, like a list of things for sale. Well, the thing is that in terms of recruitment, that maybe it's absolutely necessary for people to actually go to the town and ask and attempt to hire these people, face to face. So when, excuse me, So yes, when the so when you want to hire them, you have to go to the town and village, hamlet and farm. So that means that as people send me their strategic moves, their tactical moves and things, they might just simply say, move from here to here and hire whoever you can on the way through. In which case, I just go into the town, hamlet, farm, village, and basically find out who's available and just hire whoever is available. So it could be as simple as that. Anyway, I'm getting tired and I'm starting to ramble, even more so than normal. So yeah, thank you for joining us. And if you've got any questions, feel free to send me a text message or a private message, and I'll address it in another live stream. And if you've got any further questions, you might find some answers on renegadelarp.com.